all good stories start at the beginning, so we'll start with your name and where you guys are from.
We were born and raised in Enumclaw.
So locals, and your names?
Dorothy Sleigh.
And Mary Kell.
Very easy to do. Where is you mentioned your sisters. Where are your parents from?
Yugoslavia.
Of all places.
Slovenia.
Okay, good deal. What brought them to the United States?
Well,
Dad came first. And I had all this stuff written down somewhere, but I don't know where.
well, he came to the United States. Where I'm not quite sure what year. It was probably 1915, 16 in that.
No, he
era.
became a citizen in 1911.
Oh, did he? Oh, okay. Well,
I remember that.
okay. Well, anyway, he wound up settling in the Cumberland area.
Okay, so pre-depression era, came here looking for work, or
Yeah.
okay, and
Coal mine.
was he
I
was,
asked him why they left the beautiful country where they live, because I've been back there. He says, we didn't have any freedom.
really? So that's Yugoslavia. That's under USSR rule at the time. I think
It
so.
was, well, they were actually born in Austria.
Okay.
Then they became part of Slovakia or whatever, wasn't it? Yeah. And then it was part of Yugoslavia, which was behind the Iron Curtain. 'Cause we were both in the service and we couldn't go visit them because of the Iron Curtain
Wow. Okay.
when they were there.
And now that was your father. What about your mother?
Yeah.
My mother was there too.
Oh, okay. So
Okay, well,
Yeah.
he got here anyway, and he wound up settling in Cumberland, went to work in the coal mines. And he wound up marrying a gal who was born and raised in the Newaukum area, which is close to and she was the oldest of 18 kids.
jeez.
Well, they had big families. We're 2 of 10.
Well, busy time, right?
Well, anyway, they had 3 children. And after the birth of the third child, Billy was a boy. It was Elsie, Charlie, and Billy. And Antonia died. She had cancer. And I was surprised to know that they even determined that, in fact, the whole family wound up.
Even back during that time period? Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So they're probably dealing with like a town doctor or something like that
Yeah.
at the time, or just a guess.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, anyway, she's buried out at the Crane Cemetery.
Oh,
Yeah. So the family wanted our father to marry one of the younger girls, and he didn't want to. So he decided he was going back to Slovenia or Yugoslavia. Well, it's Slovenia now, but it was Yugoslavia at one time. Anyway, to find a new wife, he did have a woman in mind. So in that day and age, you had to climb on the train, you had to go across on the boat, because there were no airplanes at that time. And he had a gal in mind, but she was married when he got there.
oh, jeez.
So he was on the farm visiting with his brother, and he was looking out the window, and he saw this gal shocking hay in the field next door. So he says to his brother, he says, who's that? And he says, oh, that's Anna. She's an orphan, and she's working on her uncle's farm. So,
Hey, back in the day, if it works, it works.
so anyway, they were married within a week, and he was back on his way back to the United States. Our mother couldn't speak a word of English, and it took her 6 months to get her paperwork in order to come to the United States.
So she didn't come over immediately with
No,
them? Okay.
No, she couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't let her.
So but through that, they came back to Cumberland.
Yeah, they came back to Cumberland, and Dad continued to work in the coal mines, and he also was a bootlegger.
No. The area is known for that.
He made what they called Slivovitz, and it's made out of Italian prunes. And it's a pure white liquor, about 99% proof. You can buy it in the liquor store.
Jeez, but back in the day, I mean, there's...
It
No, not
amazed,
then you couldn't. Now you can.
it amazed me that our father had the ambition to make contact with people into Seattle to sell it and thrive off of that in the coal mining industry. And so he would take the product, put it by some stump there in Cumberland. They would come out from Seattle and pick it up and leave him the money.
That's the kind of trust people don't have that kind of trust anymore today. That just doesn't happen. So your parents are back here in Cumberland area. When do you guys come into the picture?
Okay, I was actually born before they moved out of Cumberland. I was about a year and a half or two. They had 3 cows at the time, and they run them up the railroad tracks from Cumberland to Enumclaw, and they bought 20 acres out here on 424th,
Okay.
and it had a 2-room shack on it.
That's highfalutin back in the day.
Which was right next to the creek and the railroad tracks. And anyway, it was a 2-room thing, and then we had 5
Plus the woodshed.
plus the woodshed. So they took the woodshed and made a bunkhouse out of it for the boys. We had a 2-holder.
Very important.
And Mary was born after we moved into the 2-room
35.
shed. Yeah, in
I
1935.
remember the house.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
How long was the house there for, do you know?
It was there.
A long time.
Well, in fact, after
They
we
were
built the new house and moved in 39.
on the other end of the property.
Yeah, and they rented the other one.
Yeah.
So it was there quite a while.
Quite some time. So it was there though when you guys got there. So you,
Oh,
you
yeah.
moved
Oh, yeah.
into a place.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha,
And it
gotcha.
had a barn on it. So as we were growing up, Mom and us kids ran the farm. We hand milked anywhere from 15 to 20 cows.
That's a busy day.
And then Dad still worked in the coal mines.
Was he going up to Cumberland still, or okay?
Yeah, he worked for Jim Boldy.
Well, mostly. He worked in several different mines.
So was there a specific mine he was in particularly out there, or is it just
Well,
whoever was paying him?
I can remember him finishing up his career, as far as the coal miner is concerned, in Bain.
Oh, really? Okay. So a little off from Cumberland.
Yeah. Well,
Cumberland,
that's-
Cumberland-ish.
Yeah, well, there was a community there that Jim Boldy had.
Yeah. I know the folks that live on the land that Bain is on, so.
Oh, really?
There's not much there.
Well, there used to be a bunch of
Oh, yeah.
company houses in there.
For sure, for sure. So company houses, when you guys are milking 15 cows a day, what else are you doing? Are you going to school at all during that time period?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so is that down here in Enumclaw, or?
Enumclaw.
So that's quite a march.
Well,
We had school buses.
we did have school buses. Sometimes we walked, though. We'd walk up the railroad tracks, which is about a mile and a half.
You ever get in trouble for that? Because I've heard some
No,
people,
no,
that's kind of naughty to do sometimes.
The wonderful thing about living in that house along the creek, it was filled with salmon. We used to gap salmon out of there like you wouldn't believe.
Really? I
One
don't
day
think I've ever heard of fish in that creek.
There used to be a lot.
Really?
A lot of them. Anyway, one day we got chased down the railroad tracks with 45 salmon on a beanpole, through the gills.
Really?
And the game warden says, "What are you kids doing with all those fish?" And we says, "Well, we sell them to the neighbor lady. We kept the steelhead to eat. That's all we ever
Right.
made was steelhead." Anyway, we sold them to her for 10 cents a piece. She cooked them up and fed them to her pigs.
Pretty well-fed pigs.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I was a pig getting fed salmon today.
back to Dad, though, he was in a couple of mine blasts
Oh boy.
in the area.
That's unfortunately common.
Yeah, and he had one of the first boys was working in the mines with one of those blasts. And that was the last time Charlie went to work in the mine. He went up to Weyerhaeuser and got a job at the lumber mill.
Just wasn't a fan. Well, I mean, lumber mills are just almost as dangerous as coal mines, just in a different way.
The White River was a big
outfit.
They employed about 350
Yeah.
people.
They were the precursor to Weyerhaeuser, right? Or something like that.
They
Yeah.
called it White River Lumber Company.
Gotcha. So all the boys didn't go into your brothers and whatnot didn't go into the mines afterwards?
No, just Charlie and then Tots.
Tots went in it. for a
Tots
while.
went in for a while.
Then he went to work for Weyerhaeuser.
Weyerhaeuser, yeah.
Didn't like being underground all that much,
No.
right?
Yeah.
So with your dad being underground, your brothers being off in the hills
Yeah.
working in there, did your mom took care of things around the house, I imagine?
Oh, yeah. Well, we had a big garden. We raised all of our own meat.
Mm-hmm.
We did our own butchering. We made our own sauerkraut. Summertime,
Dill
all the
pickles?
haying was done by hand.
Ugh, brutal.
We didn't have any machinery, just the flatbed truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but we.
Wagon it was.
A wagon, yeah. Well, then we got a truck too
Yeah.
later, because we used to laugh. We'd work like heck in the summertime with the haying, and it was hot. Dad would load all of us kids and take us to Nolte State Park, go swimming for our baths.
That's one way to do it, but also, once you have a truck, it's a little bit
But
easier.
Dad was, God, he just, I was just amazed at some of the things he did. Like in the creek area where the house was, he built a corral out of wood in the creek, and that was our refrigerator. He put stuff in jars and kept
Right.
it cold.
And the fish never messed with it or anything.
God, I don't know. We had a good time growing up.
For sure. So living in the kind of weird middle zone between Cumberland, that little triangle zone,
Yeah.
Cumberland,
Yeah.
Enumclaw, Black Diamond, how much time did you guys spend over in like Black Diamond?
Well,
You
my
did.
husband actually taught school
Mhm.
over there after we got married. Well, he was teaching there when I married him.
So how'd you meet your husband?
Dancing.
Dancing. That's seems to be a common theme.
Out at the Newaukum Grange. Another thing our dad was, he was very musical.
Okay.
He could play one of those button box accordions,
Mm-hmm.
and he could play a tuba and a trumpet,
Harmonica?
harmonica.
Really?
Oh, God. So every Sunday, we'd go to church. Well, we'd milk the cows and go to church, and in the afternoon, went potlucking someplace. Danced in chicken yards, barns, and coops, and
Yeah.
And everything in between, right?
yeah, no, we had a good time.
Good deal. So you met your husband at a dance.
Yeah.
And that was over in Newaukum. And how long, compared to your parents, how long was the courting there?
Well, we were in the process of joining the military
Hmm.
when I met him.
Mm-hmm.
And the spark was there. He tried to talk me out of it. And I said, no, I'll always be sorry if I don't go. So we took off. I met him in August and we left the first part of October.
So quite a rapid turnaround. So this is World War II you guys were involved in?
Korean War.
Korean War, okay. What were you guys doing during that time?
Air Force.
Air Force?
Well, I just graduated from high school.
Okay.
In June. And I couldn't go in until I was only 17.
Hmm.
And I couldn't go in until I turned 18.
Okay.
So I turned 18 the 28th of September and left for Lackland on the 12th of October.
Quite the trip. So what did you guys do during the war when you were in?
Well, we went to, when you go through basic training, you take aptitude tests. And we both were mechanically inclined, so they sent us to radio maintenance school in Scotton, Illinois.
Of all places.
And Georgia Tech offered 3 years college credit for that
Really?
course that we took in 6 months. But But then the Korean War got over, and so they took us out of that. And then we went on the job training, and I went as a clerk typist, and she went as a stenographer.
Okay, so,
But they sent us to Stewart Air Force Base out, which is right next to West Point. And we were there for 10 months. Mary, isn't that where you got your training in accounting?
Finance, yeah.
In accounting, and then I was actually, did secretarial work for 2 engineers who were in charge of all the construction at the bases on the East Coast.
so that's quite the turnaround to go from
Yeah.
catching large fish and running from game wardens to radio school to working for engineers, and yeah, that's quite the turnaround.
Yeah. Then we had, 15 months left in our service, and they offered us a deal to go overseas.
May as well.
Well, so we had to extend our enlistment to 3 months, to sort of a minimum of 18.
18 months. Yeah.
I went to England, and she went, you started out at Wiesbaden.
Wiesbaden, Germany, but when I got there, they had a train ticket to Paris. And I was
Shape
at
headquarters.
Supreme Headquarters, Allied Powers, Europe. And I lived with girls from 14 different nations. I actually was a secretary to an Air Force general, a British wing commander, a French Army colonel, and an Italian Navy commander.
So who had it better in the spot that they went to?
She did.
Well, we both had it good though. We had played baseball. We had girls' baseball teams. We saw
Yeah.
each other periodically.
I went to the Bayman from England, and I played basketball too, so I got to travel to Europe all the time.
Nice. Well, that's pretty cool that
Your
you're
tax dollars hard at work.
even then. But that's pretty cool that you guys,
Oh,
quarter of the way around the world and you're still able to be with your family like that. That's pretty
I had
awesome.
Such, it's just a marvelous experience. Our parents came for a visit when we were stationed over there. So Mary took 10 days
Yeah.
and came over and met us in Paris. And I helped my dad find a half-brother in Belgium that he hadn't seen in 45 years.
And in a time before Ancestry.com too. That's pretty impressive.
And then another thing that happened, I'm the very first one that ever wore a pair of contacts in the city of Enumclaw.
Of all the things to be the first thing.
Well, I was very nearsighted. And the military newspaper had an article in there about this Dr. Sanyas, who had a business in Munich. And the train that my folks were going on to go to see their relatives was going through Munich. So I thought, well, by God, I'm going to see if I can make an appointment and go see what this is all about. He fitted me. We took a day, the train, stopped, and we spent the day there. He examined me and whatnot. He says, you're not going to have any trouble. We're in those hard I never did have any trouble.
Then that's in a time when contacts are brand new.
Yeah. It was like a different world.
Right. Yeah, I had LASIK, so I'm right there with you. It's
yeah.
amazing how quick the vision is just like, whoa. So that's what the real world looks like.
And my prescriptions never really did change after that.
That's a bonus. So you guys are in Europe, coming to the end of your service. How do you get back to the States?
You come on a boat, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a choice. I could fly home, come home on the SS America.
Oh.
So I thought, well, hell, I'm going to go home on the SS America.
Why not?
It was a wonderful trip.
Yeah, still back in the day. And how did you get home from?
I flew home,
Flew home. So.
and then when I got home, I was going to be discharged at McCord. It was Christmas time, so I didn't get out of the service till January 7th or 9th, I can't remember now, the exact date of the year after. You were out before.
Well, I got discharged from the court too. on the 26th day of December.
That's Christmas present for both of you, right? So McCord Air Force Base, you guys are standing there. Do you come back to Enumclaw? Do you go to Seattle and dance it up with whomever?
Well, hey, listen, my husband and I were married almost 62 years and we went dancing on the
So-
yeah, it was an interesting.
That's quite a bit. So come back to Enumclaw, both of you?
Yeah,
and
I
into
went to work for Weyerhaeuser.
Okay, and it was Weyerhaeuser at that point in time, it wasn't White River?
Yeah.
No, it was Weyerhaeuser.
Okay, so it changed.
Yeah, they had big offices up there. God, they
Yeah.
employed quite a few women in the offices. and stuff, yeah.
Did you ever get a chance to go up into the actual timberlands and see what they were doing up
I
there?
was married to a logger.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, so you got a first-hand look at some of those trees up there.
But then Mary,
I,
I got home and I went to work, within a week. The First National Bank of Enumclaw, I'd gone down there and they hired me on the spot because the secretary that they had surgery and she was going to be tied up for a few months and they said, well, Dorothy, when she comes back, we'll train you as a teller then. I said, that's fine. So I went to work there and then after Darrell and I got married, he decided to go back to school and get his master's degree in education so he could be a principal and whatnot. And I had 3 kids then, 2 or 3 kids, and I says, well, God, we can't go back to school. His take-home pay was only $90 a month. And so I went back down to the bank and Cy Williams, who was the personnel person down there, said, Dorothy, he says, I'd just love to have you, but in that day and age, women didn't change jobs. Once you had an office job, boy, He says, but there's a guy in town who's kind of ornery, but he says, I know you could get along with him. And it was Dwight Garrett.
Oh, geez. I've heard that one before.
Yeah, well, he did a lot for this town.
Yeah.
Black Diamond, he's a strong supporter of the Historical Society over there. Yeah, well, anyway, I went and interviewed with him and he says, oh, God, he says, I'd like to have you, but he says, I can't pay very much. I says, well, what are you offering? And he told me, and I said, Mr. Garrett, that won't even pay the babysitter. So then, this was the first part of October, and he says, I'll tell you what, Dorothy, he says, if you can prove yourself to me, he says, I'll make it up to you at Christmas time. I says, you got it, deal. Well, he was offering it to me.
So then at Weyerhaeuser, what were you doing there?
Then I had met a gentleman in the service and he wanted to get married. While we were in the service, I said, no, I'm not getting married. He was from West Virginia. So anyway, then he came out here and we got married. Then he wanted to go to school. So we left Enumclaw and went to he went to Olympic Junior College in Bremerton. And then I got on in 2 weeks, I got on at the Bremerton School District.
Quick turnaround.
Yeah. And I was instrumental in setting the Bremerton school system on IBM. You know those big machines?
The size of this room.
They sent me and another guy to school for 6 months. We took the ferry over to Seattle to learn it.
So
And I was there probably two or 3 years. And then my husband found another gal, and so we got divorced. So then I came back home, and she got me a job with Dwight Garrett. I worked for Dwight for 55 and a half years.
wow.
No, it was really funny, the bookkeeper that they had down there had died, and Dwight was having a hard time, getting somebody that he liked. So finally one day I said to him, Dwight, I says, I know somebody that can come in and do the job for you and whatnot. He says, well, who is it? And I says, it's my sister Mary. And he says, well, I would sure like to talk to her. So she came the next day and he hired her on the spot.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Well, yeah.
So you guys stayed in the area, were your parents still around during this time coming back
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
war? Okay, when did they pass?
My mom passed in '98.
Dad was 72 when he passed away.
No, he was
No.
83.
He died in 1972.
Okay,
Oh.
Yeah,
so your mother lived much longer then in that case.
yeah,
So-
she was.
But she's quite a bit younger than him.
Oh, right. So, good deal. Well, so Daryl, I've been asked to ask specifically about your husband.
Yeah.
Teacher extraordinaire.
Oh, they loved him.
And integral in Black Diamond, I believe Auburn and Pacific,
No.
or Enumclaw and Pacific.
Enumclaw.
Enumclaw and Pacific.
Yeah, he
So,
was in Black Diamond for 6 years.
Okay.
We lived over there our first 2 years of marriage. We
Mhm.
got married in 57.
okay.
But he loved teaching, he loved kids and
What did he teach? Just general
Uh,
studies
the-
or?
Elementary.
elementary
Okay.
through the 8th grade. Well, then he,
Went to
he
Enumclaw.
did, he went back to school and got his credentials for being a principal and all that. So then he decided, well, Black Diamond didn't have, they only had the one principal. He actually drove the school bus too. They
Oh.
bringing the high school kids over, for their high school schooling over here. And he had some really good stories.
Well, so he must know folks like the Evans, Sherry Evans,
Oh,
Gomer, the
oh,
Vernarellis.
Yeah.
He must have interacted with them quite a bit through that.
Bill Bremeyer.
Oh boy.
He liked to tell the story about in the fall they'd take the bus load of kids to the job fair.
Mhm.
And Bill was on his bus. He says Bill had more money in his pocket than I did. He was a school teacher. Yeah.
That's well, in a town that only has a school that goes,
Oh, yeah.
K through 8, and then having to come out to Enumclaw.
Well, anyway, he came over and got a job here. Well, he was offered 3 jobs. He was offered a job from Auburn, Puyallup, and Enumclaw. I was in the hospital having a baby, and he didn't know what to do. I said, make up your own mind. So he chose Enumclaw, and so we moved over then.
Okay. So you were Black Diamond and then over to here, and then how did he go down into the valley from there? Was that another job offer? Or?
He never did go down to the valley.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
He wound up teaching elementary school, and then Bob Campbell was at the junior high school as the vice principal, and Daryl could coach kids too, football and whatnot. So he Bob Campbell talked him into coming to the junior high to teach 7th and 8th grade English and be the 7th grade football coach. So he did that, and then while he was there, Bob died. And so Daryl, he didn't put in for the job because when he first moved to Enumclaw, he got on the salary committee. well, that was the wrong thing. And so the superintendent at that time told him, Daryl, he says there's not going to be any room for advancement in the Enumclaw school system. And Daryl said, oh, he says, I think I'll outlive you, Mr. Smith. So when this job at the junior high opened up, he didn't put in for it. I said, you're not going to put in? No. He says, Mr. Smith told me that I wasn't, wouldn't be considered for any promotion. So in the meantime, couple of years prior to this, my husband and I got busy and ran some school board elections out of our basement. So the three of them on the thing were on the board at the time when Bob died, and the next thing I know, Mr. Smith came to Darrell and says, "Darrell, how come you didn't put in for the job?" And Darrell says, "Well," he says, "you told me there was no room for investment." He says, "Well, the job is yours if you want it." So he took it.
Right.
And he was there for 2 years, and then they moved him out to Westwood the
Okay.
last 16 years as principal, and he just loved it.
Okay. So was he a strict teacher, kind of laid back,
Oh.
firm but fair?
He played with kids, he
Mhm.
played ball with them. In fact, quite often on Saturday mornings, I get a phone call. And there's Mrs. Sleigh, and Mr. Sleigh come and play ball with us. I says, "Well, let me run him down and see what he's doing." So he would come in and talk to the kids, and he'd go out and play with them for about an hour and a half. Well, then he took our older kids with him, so it worked.
Put them in place so he can go off and
He
do
did-
chores.
He did love it, and when he retired, the PTA out there nominated him for National Educator of the Year.
Really? It's a pretty high honor.
Yeah, he didn't get it, but he sure got a nice letter. so-
Right. Well, and I imagine the students'
Oh,
accolades to him
oh,
was
yeah.
probably more than enough for
Oh,
him.
yeah.
So-
He loved teaching. He
Yeah.
just loved teaching.
So you go through growing up with giant fish, going into the war, coming back, figuring everything out. What did you do in retirement?
We,
Danced.
Some things never change.
and we had a 21-foot motorhome that we scooted all over the place.
May as well.
Oh, we had so much fun.
May as well,
But
right?
the nice thing about that, we kind of shied away from the big cities and hit the little towns.
No, of course.
We'd find the local coffee shop. And we went on 4 different cruises, and I mean,
Yeah.
we really enjoyed it.
Just relaxed and have fun. I'm-
Good life.
and-
Tell them what you did, Mary.
Well, I got married again in 6 years. And then I still worked at Garrett's. And then my husband was killed in 84. So then I took up golf. And I've been to Ireland a couple times golfing. I've been on safari in Africa.
Yeah.
I've been on several cruises.
Here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah,
That's not.
I'm glad I did when I did.
Yeah.
'Cause I can't walk across the moon now.
I was fortunate to go back to the homeland
Mhm.
with our mom, and I took our oldest daughter.
Okay. And was that just visiting family places
Oh, yeah,
and whatnot,
family and all.
where they came
Where
from?
they grew up, yeah.
Okay.
We had a good time, and then another time, we took another trip with a couple of other Austrian people or Yugoslavian people.
Potocznik?
No, with Mary Mihalik and Mishmash.
Oh,
We went to Rome and we had a special, they were, they were opening up a place to train priests in Yugoslavia.
mhm.
And they had this special mass that the Pope did before they actually opened up the place to train the priests, and we got to go to that mass. I got within 5 feet of him going down the aisle on
Wow.
that chair. No,
That's-
it was.
Yeah. Wow. So,
I have no complaints.
Yeah,
So-
I don't either.
what's kind of the best part of growing up and living in this area? Through everything that you've been through, you've traveled a solid part of the world. What kept bringing you back to this southeast King County area?
It's probably the
Probably the
one
landscape.
of the most beautiful places in the United States.
That's a pretty tall order compared to some of the stuff that we're up against.
Well, you know,
When I was stationed in New York, this gal says, "Come on, we're gonna go skiing." And I said, "Where do you ski around here?" "Oh, we go to the Catskill Mountains." I said, "Oh, that's okay." So we went skiing, and I says, "Jesus," I says, "we got bigger molehills."
Yeah, you're not wrong about that.
No, when you can look at that beautiful mountain.
oh,
Right.
well, we came home on leave from New York, and we decided that we were gonna fly home with pilots that had to put their flying time in.
Oh,
We hopped home is what
We
they call
hopped,
it.
Right.
that's what we did from one base to the next, so we actually wound up going to Florida,
We went to Shawn, Carolina.
yeah,
We
Carolina.
went to Big Spring, what's on the panhandle in Florida.
Oh, I don't know.
And we went there, and then we went to Big Springs, Texas, and Yuma, Arizona,
And then we wound up in California at Hamilton
and Oakland, by Oakland.
by Oakland, and we got there and the pilots decided they weren't coming up to Seattle like they were
Flying
supposed
time, yeah.
like they were supposed to, so we decided we were gonna catch the train from Oakland to come home. And we weren't aware of daylight saving time. We missed the train.
oh,
And so
whoops.
somebody says, "Oh, get a cab and chase it across the bridge and catch it on the other." So we did that.
It's back when there wasn't traffic going in that part of there.
And then as the train, some guy on the train had a health problem, and he wound up laying in the aisle on the train, and everybody kept looking at us because we had our uniforms on. So the next thing I know, we're giving him CPR. So we stopped the train and got him off the train.
That's,
Oh, I don't know.
so, 100 years from now, when probably digital media isn't anything, you'll be able to flick yourself on the side of your head and you'll have all that knowledge. What do you think you want somebody, through all of your stories, to know about this place that you've grown up and lived in and experienced and keep coming back to? What do you think the most important thing somebody 100 years from now needs to know?
It
People
wasn't,
cared, people cared about each
yeah,
other.
it was a nice place.
Yeah,
But anyway, I think the crime is creeping in.
yeah.
That's the bad thing.
Yeah. So you guys, you kind of came from a time where everybody had each other's back. You
No.
mentioned you'd go to potlucks with
Well,
your.
we never locked our doors. We were on a party line that had 6 people on the same telephone line.
It's like a mini conga line out there, right?
And then when television first came out, we all gathered at one of the neighbors' houses.
'Cause they have the TV.
That's the real thing you want to pay attention to more than anything else. So.
Oh, yeah.
Out of curiosity, did you guys get to see the moon landing when they?
Some of my best friends are still alive, and we grew up in the same area.
So that's kind of impressive that you keep coming back to, after everything, you just keep coming back to Enumclaw, Washington, of all places. Now,
Well, Enumclaw, Black Diamond, and Cumberland, they're all, yeah.
a couple different sides of the same coin, right? So I have one more question for you, and this was specifically, I had to ask this one. We were informed that you have memories of picking blackberries. And I have to ask you, which blackberries do you prefer? Do you prefer the Washington or the Himalayans?
The little ones.
That's good choice.
Okay, the first summer that our mother was here with those 3 kids, she picked and canned 365 quarts of them.
Jeez.
And my husband loved to pick blackberries. He would pick anywhere from 15 to 20 gallons a year. 2 or 3 of these old lady friends, "Daryl, where's my barrel?" He was so good to people.
And that, that kind of tradition just doesn't,
Yeah.
God, 3, I just can't even imagine how much time that would take. especially with those little ones. Were they the Himalayans or were they the Washington?
No,
Jeez.
You look for places where
Right.
they logged, you know, and then the vines start, and about the first or second year after, that's the time to go look for them in those areas.
Better get those calluses built up on
Those,
your fingers, right?
I tell you, those Himalayans aren't bad. Like if you make a jam,
Hmm.
to put the berries in a blender.
Never thought of that.
Yeah,
Right, I always thought to crush them up, but I take
it crushes the seed.
right. I always take catharsis with the Himalayans because they're invasive. Some people are like, you know, just need to destroy them. I'm like, just eat them. It's kind of the revenge against the berry. Well, I am really impressed with everything. I don't know what I was expecting to come into, but that's very impressive. It never ceases to amaze me, the kind of folks that just live
Yeah.
out here in this part of the world.
Oh,
No,
Eagle
I
Claw
like-
is a great place.
Yeah, we've been all over. And I wouldn't take this part of the country for nothing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't either.
The beauty that's here, and we, thank God we've had pretty decent weather.
Yeah.
Because I can remember as a kid, we were just talking about it the other day, in the Veazie Valley, used to get so foggy at times, and Dad would make one of us get out when he was driving to Enumclaw, it was so foggy, to walk along the side of the side so that he wouldn't run in the ditch. No, it's true.
Previous to fog lights, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, good deal. Well, I don't have any other questions for you that you
No,
went
we appreciate it.
beyond anything that I had actually thought I was going to end up asking. So, with that, I think that's all for me. Unless you guys have anything, any other little stories you got, or
You know what started all this? We took a busload of people out here, I don't know, 6 or 7 of us went over to the Historical Society, and I took a picture of my dad in his coal mining outfit.
okay.
And showed it to them over there. They insisted on taking a picture of it, so.
That's-
This is how this all got started.
That's usually how things happen. Is it kind of just one thing leads
Yeah.
into another, and then you're voluntold to do something.
Yeah.
At least that's how I end up in things usually. So, well, cool.
Well, thank